I never thought I'd be the neighbor with a horror story. I'm an architect by trade, Daniel Harper, and I work mostly from my home studio in a quiet corner of Silverwood Meadows, a subdivision that was once known for its calm, reasonable HOA. That changed the moment Evelyn Grant got herself elected HOA president. To her face, people call her Evelyn. But behind her back, even her closest supporters just call her Karen, because she is every bit the nightmare suburban stereotype you picture when you hear the word rules-obsessed, power-drunk, and absolutely convinced she alone knows what's best for everyone within her fiefdom of picket fences. When I moved into my Craftsman bungalow 4 years ago, the HOA was chaired by a retired naval officer, Mr. Benson. He kept the books tight, enforced real issues, and minded his business. But when he retired to Arizona last spring, Evelyn pounced. She campaigned door-to-door on a promise to elevate our property standards. Translation: petty tyranny by violation notice. Within weeks, my elderly neighbor Mrs. Patel got fined $50 for leaving her trash bins out 90 minutes too long. The Harrisons down the street? A $75 notice because their Halloween wreath lingered on the door till November 2nd. Me? I kept my head down, lawn trimmed, mailbox painted, fence inspected twice a year. I figured if I stayed invisible, I'd stay safe. I was wrong. It all started in early March, right as the dogwoods began to bloom. I owned a gorgeous sugar maple in my backyard. It shaded my office window perfectly in the afternoons and turned a breathtaking red every October. According to my plat survey, that tree stood nearly 5 feet inside my property line, nowhere near the rickety fence separating my yard from Evelyn's pristine patio. One quiet Saturday, while sketching a new client's house plan, I heard a buzz. Not a bee, chainsaws. I glanced out my back window and nearly dropped my pen. There she was, Evelyn, hair sprayed into place. Designer sunglasses perched on her nose despite the cloudy sky, waving a clipboard like a conductor, while 2 bewildered-looking guys with chainsaws hacked limbs off my maple. I stormed outside so fast I nearly tripped on the porch steps. Evelyn, what do you think you're doing? She turned, that infuriating smirk in place. Good morning, Daniel. Don't mind us. This tree is dropping sticky sap onto my outdoor sectional. As HOA president, I'm within my rights to eliminate encroaching branches. I couldn't believe my ears. You can't just walk onto my property and butcher my tree. You didn't even ask me. She flipped a page on her clipboard. Section 10, Clause B. No foliage shall encroach on adjoining parcels. This is standard compliance. I stepped between her and the men, who had the decency to power down the saws and look awkward. Get off my property. Now, if a single branch falls after this, I'm calling the cops for trespassing. One of the guys half raised his hand. Ma'am, he's right. We probably shouldn't. She hissed. We finish the job or I withhold payment. I held up my phone. Do it, and the only payment you'll get is a court summons. That was enough for the contractors. They left, mumbling apologies and hauling half my tree limbs in the back of their battered pickup. Evelyn snatched her clipboard like a wounded queen and snapped, Enjoy your violation notice, Daniel. You have 3 days to fix your hazardous tree before we fine you daily. I stood there staring at the mangled stump of my once symmetrical maple, feeling rage churn beneath my ribs. The next day, sure enough, I found a bright pink slip in my mailbox. $100 daily fine until the diseased and unsightly tree was removed. The tree wasn't diseased. It was healthy until Evelyn's hacksaws mutilated it. I knew I needed to move smartly. First, I hired Rivera arborists to inspect the tree. The specialist confirmed exactly what I expected. The maple was healthy but structurally compromised because of improper and unauthorized topping. He gave me a signed report and a neat folder of photos. Next, I dug through our HOA's 40-page bylaws. There it was in black and white. Foliage overhang could be trimmed back to the property line, but any enforcement action requiring property entry needed either the owner's consent or a 3-board member vote. And any board member with a conflict of interest, like having their patio furniture beneath said tree, had to recuse themselves. So I typed a polite but firm letter addressed to the entire board, except Evelyn. I attached the arborist's report, photos, and excerpts from the bylaws. I highlighted the trespass, the forgery of authority, and politely warned that further interference would be met with civil action. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. It was Marissa Clark, our HOA secretary. I'm so sorry. Daniel, We had no idea she did this without a vote. She's been overstepping. We'll handle it internally. Please don't do anything drastic. I exhaled. For a minute, I let myself believe that was the end. It wasn't. 3 mornings later, I was scheduled to check progress on a renovation across town. When I pulled back onto my street at lunchtime, my gut twisted. Parked at the curb in front of my house was a battered white pickup with Griffin's Budget Tree Service painted on the door. 2 men in reflective vests were taking chainsaws to the base of my maple. And there she was. Evelyn Grant, hair in a perfect ponytail, yoga pants tucked into expensive boots. Leaning smugly against her cherry red Mercedes convertible, parked directly across the street for a front row view. I slammed my brakes, flung my car door open so hard it nearly bounced back, and sprinted across the lawn. Stop. Turn those off right now. One of the men killed his saw, startled. The other half froze mid-cut. Evelyn held up a piece of paper like a talisman. You're too late, Daniel. Emergency removal. HOA policy. Tree's a hazard now. Look, it's half dead. For neighborhood safety, I'm authorized to act immediately. I snatched the paper. It was our HOA letterhead, but only her signature. No other board members. No certified notice. No proof of a hazard, except the hazard she herself caused. This is worthless. You forged this. If you keep cutting, I will press criminal charges for trespass and fraud. The workers looked at each other. One spoke up. Lady, you said you had the owner's okay. Evelyn snarled. I am the authority. I'm the president. My phone buzzed. Mark Stevens, a board member. Daniel? I just got a call. Evelyn's cutting your tree down. Too late. It's nearly gone. She forged an order. Stay there. I'm calling the whole board now. This is it for her. The workers, visibly spooked, began to pack up. But the damage was done. The maple's trunk was sawn almost through. The weight shifted. A deep, ominous crack filled the air. I backed up instinctively. So did the contractors. Everyone except Evelyn, who was too busy shouting at me. This will cost you dearly. You ungrateful. Crack. The maple swayed, split, and with one final groan of ancient wood, fell in a perfect arc, not toward my house, or the contractors, or me. No, it slammed straight across the street, smashing squarely onto Evelyn's beloved red Mercedes convertible. Glass exploded. Metal shrieked. The trunk settled neatly through the windshield, pinning the front end to the asphalt like a cartoon anvil. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Evelyn let out a shriek that probably cracked windows 3 streets over. My car. My car. Look what you've done. I folded my arms. What I've done. You trespassed. You forged a removal order. You mutilated my tree twice. You broke the law, Evelyn. This is entirely on you. She sputtered, then whipped out her phone, stalking away to hiss at her insurance agent. Yes, they ruined my car. No, I authorized it. Well, sort of. What do you mean you won't cover it? It was for the good of the community. Hello? Hello? The contractors tiptoed to their truck. Sorry, man, one said, eyes wide. She told us she owned the tree. I waved them off. They drove away fast enough to rattle the branches still wedged in the crumpled hood of Evelyn's car. That afternoon, Mark and 2 other board members showed up. They surveyed the splintered stump. The totaled convertible, and Evelyn pacing on her driveway, phone pressed to her ear, voice rising by the minute. Mark said quietly, this time she crossed the line. We're voting tonight. 3 days later, I got a certified letter in a neat HOA envelope. Inside was a formal apology from every board member except Evelyn. They declared the fines void, acknowledged my tree was illegally damaged, and attached a check covering the arborist's full valuation, $17,800, plus an extra $3,000 for new landscaping. They also included a signed copy of the emergency session minutes. Evelyn Grant removed as HOA president, effective immediately. A week later, I was reading that letter again on my front porch. Coffee steaming in my mug when a black SUV rolled up Evelyn's driveway. A rental sticker clung to the windshield. Her insurance didn't cover fraudulent personal actions. So no more shiny convertible. She stepped out, sunglasses too big for her face, avoided my eyes entirely, and scurried to her door like a raccoon at sunrise. I raised my mug. Morning, Evelyn. She flinched so hard she dropped her keys, scrambled to scoop them up, and slammed the door behind her. My new maple arrives next week. It'll grow slower than the last one, but I don't mind. Some things are worth waiting for. And as for Evelyn, she still lives behind me, for now. But the HOA? They made one final bylaw amendment at the next meeting. Any board member found abusing authority is permanently banned from future HOA roles. They named it the Harper Rule, a little poetic justice standing tall, just like my tree will. For decades to come,